My hope is in the Lord because he is Jehovah Jireh. The name Jehovah Jireh occurs just once in the Bible. It means the Lord will provide. Imagine that you were faced with the most trying, difficult problem of your life. Imagine that on top of that you knew that God was using it to test the very core of your belief in him. Now that's what was happening that brought about this name, Jehovah Jireh, used for God. Abraham was tested by God with perhaps the most difficult test that could be placed on a man. He was to take your son, your only son, Isaac, through whom the promises of God were to be fulfilled. Take him to Mount Moriah to offer him there as a burnt offering. Now God is asking him to sacrifice his son. That's a bit much, don't you think? Even if it was God who was asking. But God asked him to do it. So what kind of man would obey such a request? Abraham, a man so full of faith that the author of Hebrews says, by faith Abraham, when he was tested, offered up Isaac, and he who had received the promises was in the act of offering up his son. So how could he do that? Well, he considered that God was able even to raise him from the dead. Abraham's faith was so strong that he believed that if God had promised to give him offspring through his son, then God would have to raise him up from the dead to do so. That's an amazing faith. So Abraham placed Isaac on the altar, reached out his hand and took the knife to slaughter his son. But the angel of the Lord called to him from heaven and said, Abraham, Abraham. And he said, Here am I. He said, Do not lay your hand on the boy or do anything to him. For now I know that you fear God, seeing you have not withheld your son, your only son, from me. Not only did God call off the sacrifice, but Abraham lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, behind him was a ram caught in a thicket by the horns. And Abraham went and took the ram and offered it up as a burnt offering instead of his son. You see, God provided a substitute to be sacrificed in the place of his son, just as God the Father provided Jesus Christ to be our sacrifice in our place. Now, because God provided Abraham the substitute, Abraham called the name of the place, The Lord Will Provide. That is the Hebrew name Jehovah Jireh. The Lord will provide. As it is said to this day, on the mount of the Lord it shall be provided. Here's the deal. God is the Lord who provides. He is the same today. The Apostle Paul tells us so in Philippians chapter 4, verse 19. My God will supply every need of yours according to his riches in glory in Christ Jesus. He always provides. Right now, whatever test you may be facing, remember, he is Jehovah Jireh, the Lord who provides. Believe it, because when you do, you will say, My hope is in the Lord.